Hi friend, welcome to the Quiet Connections podcast. Do you feel anxious and not good enough in social situations? Feel like you're weird, broken or don't fit in? You are not alone. Join Hayley and Stacey on a journey to quiet confidence, picking up key insights to help you feel more calm and confident, so you can finally speak up, join in and feel like you belong too.
Have you ever felt like you just can't get your words out? Like somebody talks to you and you just seem to freeze and your words get stuck in your throat? Well, in this episode, we are talking about how being unable to get your words out can be an anxiety response. Chelsea Gamache was diagnosed with selective mutism at the age of 5. And she is passionate about sharing her experience, raising awareness and helping others who are struggling with selective mutism and anxiety. Chelsea is a board-certified behaviour analyst and she hosts Out Loud, the Selective Mutism podcast with her mum. And she also recently wrote a children's book about selective mutism called I Am Brave. I imagine that this conversation will be eye-opening for a lot of people who have experienced something very similar to what Chelsea describes within this episode, but you never had a word for it before. I found this conversation with Chelsea absolutely fascinating, and I was surprised how much of Chelsea's story I could relate to for myself, and you might be too. So I invite you to join me in this wonderful conversation with Chelsea. I'm Hayley and you are listening to the Quiet Connections podcast. Welcome to Quiet Connections, Chelsea.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be a guest on a podcast.
Yes, because you have your own podcast, don't you?
Yes, me and my mom do it together. It's called Out Loud, the Selective Mutism podcast. So I'm used to being on the other end.
And this is what you're going to talk to us about today, selective mutism.
Yes.
Because I think it's something that a lot of people, we don't know about it really. And a lot of us will probably experience it in line with social anxiety. But we may never know that that's something that's going on for us. So perhaps you can start there and just explain a little bit about what selective mutism actually is.
Yeah, sure. So selective mutism, first of all, I was diagnosed with it when I was 5 years old, but we saw signs of it much earlier. I was always very shy, and I hate that word, but I was very afraid of people, and I didn't like attention. Like as a baby, I would cry if people looked at me a certain way. So first of all, selective mutism is an anxiety disorder, which is basically when someone is unable to speak in a certain setting. It's usually at school when we first see that popping up. And this is despite them being able to communicate like regularly in another setting. So they might be very comfortable at home. They might even be very extroverted and outgoing. And then they just freeze up at school and they do not talk the entire day. It can also be more, everyone's so different. It can be like, oh, they only talk to their peers, but they can talk fine to adults, or they the other way around. You see all different variations, but yeah, for me I was more comfortable at home, but I still experienced anxiety at home as well, but it was a lot better. And then at school, I didn't talk to anyone unless there were certain rules. It was very, like, I had one person I would talk to, but it had to be just me and them. So if someone else could hear us, I wouldn't talk. And then I could also, certain teachers I could talk to as well, but it had to be one-on-one.
Yeah, I can so relate to that. What do you think the link is between social anxiety and selective mutism?
Social anxiety, it's hard for me to pull the two apart. I know that you can have selective mutism and not have social anxiety, or at least not considered social anxiety disorder. I think a lot, like the majority of people, I think it might be 90% of kids with selective mutism also meet criteria for social anxiety disorder. So it's a big amount.
Yeah.
But you can have one or the other.
And again, social anxiety is something that just isn't picked up on very much as well.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for people to know about it, which is why I'm so passionate about spreading awareness, because it's easily misunderstood. And I think if you don't know what it is, it can look like rudeness or I don't know.
Disinterest.
Yeah. It looks like, oh, I don't care and I don't want to talk to you. But it's actually like a fear response to all this anxiety you're feeling.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to educate teachers and people who come in contact with these kids.
Absolutely agree. And so this was my experience at school. It sounds very similar to yours, that when I was in a classroom, when I was called upon in class, or, I would just freeze. I literally just couldn't get the words out. And I was the same in groups of friends. I would just sit there silent and I could only talk to people one-to-one. And I remember once there was this girl who was like, she wasn't necessarily my friend, but she was part of the group of friends. And she just started having a go at me about how she hates me because I'm so quiet.
Oh.
But, I never had a diagnosis of selective mutism. I never even had a diagnosis of social anxiety. So yeah, how would you know that selective mutism is something that you're experiencing?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people describe they really, really want to talk, but they physically feel like they can't. So it's almost like there's a blockage in your throat or something, or your body is not responding the way you want it to. There's also if you look at the criteria, it has to be a certain number of months or something. There's very specific criteria. And it can't be the first month of school, because it can be normal for kids to be nervous when they start at school.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard because you need to get a good assessment, and there's not that many professionals that are super familiar with selective mutism. So people end up on waiting lists, and it's actually kind of hard. I'd say there's a lot of self-diagnosing, because people are like, oh, that sounds exactly like what I am experiencing, but they can't go find a professional to do an assessment.
Yeah, and selective mutism affects approximately 1 in 140 school-aged children, according to the Selective Mutism Association.
It's pretty low, but I think it is very underdiagnosed.
Of course, yeah. For social anxiety, it's about 1 in 10 people that experience that we would know of. So again, it's something that's underdiagnosed, and a lot of people do experience social anxiety and not have that diagnosis too.
Yeah, it's interesting, I guess. For me, people are always like, it's some big mystery. Why won't you talk? Why are you afraid to talk? And I think social anxiety for me was a huge part of it. I was afraid of making mistakes or sounding stupid or being judged for what I said.
Yeah.
I also did not like the sound of my voice. I was self-conscious about what I sounded like, and I felt like I couldn't control the tone of my voice very, very well. So if someone I squeak some word out, someone would laugh because it sounds funny. It sounds like I am really struggling. That would really freak me out, and I'd probably not talk again in front of them. But it wasn't just about speaking. And I say this all the time on my podcast, because the focus is on speaking, because that is kind of the biggest barrier, I'd say, that these people are facing who have that diagnosis. But there's other things going on. You're afraid to do things in front of people. It's almost like you're on a stage, and every day you're performing different tasks. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
A lot of kids can't get up and go to the bathroom, or they can't eat in front of other people. You see that very often.
Yeah. So there's a real kind of similarity between selective mutism and social anxiety.
Yeah, it's hard. It's it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg type thing. It's like I don't know which came first. I almost want to say the anxiety, because I think I was born with really strong anxiety from the moment I was in this world.
Oh, I was wondering if you were a highly sensitive child.
Oh yes, we haven't even talked about the sensory issues. Yeah, I had lots of sensory issues as well, and I would say I'm highly sensitive. We did an episode on that, and I really related with all of it. But it's hard, again, it's hard to know, like, I'd say the anxiety makes it hard to speak in certain situations because it puts you in that freeze response. And then there's also like the feeling of people thinking you're gonna mess up, or you don't want people to judge what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely that avoiding that being that center of attention, I guess.
Yeah, its attention is so aversive, which I guess you get better at with exposure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell us about what's happening inside us when this selective mutism is happening?
Yeah. I know some people don't get these same symptoms. I think I was pretty severe on the physical symptoms because I would often faint or be at the point of throwing up because of anxiety. I It was usually when I was put on the spot though. Like I would have heightened anxiety going into school, but then maybe attendance or getting called on would just push me through the roof. And I would
Yeah.
shake and I'd get all sweaty and my vision would go and I'd have to put my head down. But I felt like I couldn't. It's the pressure of someone expecting you to speak that makes it hard to do so, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
I can actually remember, there was a couple of times where I'm like, I could put my hand up. I really want to. I want to give the teacher the answer. I know that I have the answer. But because I am this, this shy girl and it's expected of me not to speak, I didn't want to like speak up and then have the attention.
Yeah. And then it builds up because you get that reputation and then it's harder and harder to break because there's going to be a bigger response to you talking or doing something out of character. Everyone's like, oh my God, she finally talked. And then that doesn't feel good. It just they feed into each other. It's so hard to.
Yeah, I saw you post a behavioral cycle that kind of explained that. And then I think there was something in it around when we stay silent, somebody often will jump in to rescue us.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And I think it's a lot of the time it's parents and they see their kid in distress and of course they're going to help them. That's the natural thing to do. But that kind of continues the cycle of not having to face your fears and answer a question or speak up for yourself. So yeah, they focus on that a lot in therapy, working with the parents, changing their behavior as well. And you see it with peers as well. A lot of friends will try to help their quiet friend by speaking for them.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But it doesn't help in the long run.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about the freeze response that's happening, and I mean that's a neurological thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like you get stuck and it might take you longer to respond. So I think people get uncomfortable with that awkward silence when maybe if you waited a little bit longer, which might seem unnatural, they might answer. It's kind of waiting out the awkward pause that can be hard.
Yeah,
but definitely. When you're in that freeze response, it's really hard to like calm yourself down and focus on one thing because there's so much going on.
It does take time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I saw that you mentioned about the way that people react to you. So when you do speak up, if you're given a lot of praise, sometimes that praise can be given in the wrong way. Can you talk to us about that, please?
Yes. So you would think that praise is great. Praise is great, and it does increase behavior a lot of the time. But I think with selective mutism, it's putting attention on the child that is going to actually decrease the behavior maybe, or make it less likely to happen again, because that attention can be really aversive. And I think there's ways to praise someone that can be more effective. Like you can do it like more discreetly, like with just like a nod or like a thumbs up, or you can talk to them after the fact and say like, you did a great job reading today in class, like that was awesome. It doesn't have to be like over the top, like everyone clap for her because she finally talked, because that's actually not what we want. It doesn't feel good. No, we just want to be treated like everyone else and have it not be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to be able to like just talk and then move on.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I've been trying to do this for a while.
Yeah.
But there's something about it, like I always felt proud of myself. Like I felt like I didn't need everyone cheering for me. Like I felt like, oh, I did it. Like I finally did it. That's awesome. Like that was enough for me. I didn't need people giving me a round of applause, but everyone's different.
So I was looking through your Instagram, and you've had some of these old, I guess, some old goals that you had when you were younger, and you showed the little goal sheets. And one of them said about silly talk. What did that mean?
Okay, so this is actually pretty common in people who have selective mutism. I don't know like the stats of it, but people will say like, oh, my kid is using like a fake voice, like they're not using their real voice. So what I used to do is I would use like baby talk. Like I would kind of revert my language back to like using grammar incorrectly. Like I sounded like younger than I was, and the pitch of my voice would change. A lot of kids do this differently, but that was how I did it. And I try to explain it to people as like it feels like it's not me. So if somebody judges how I sound or what I say, it's not really me. It's like I'm protecting myself from feeling judged or something. But it's also feeling uncomfortable, and that's kind of what comes out when you're uncomfortable, but you're trying to talk anyway. It can be hard to be yourself when you're under that amount of anxiety.
Oh, definitely.
So people are always like, what do we do? Like, should we be punishing this? Like, should we be ignoring them and waiting till they use their real voice? And I just think it's hard enough for them to get that out that I wouldn't acknowledge that it's different from the regular voice. It's just the best they can do right now. And it will go away eventually when they're more comfortable.
Yeah, that's a lovely tip.
Yeah. There's a lot of kids that make like they pretend they're animals or they won't have a conversation with you, but they'll meow.
Yeah. I have heard other people talking about using a different voice as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it very interesting. So talk us through, what are you doing now? I mean, you've come a long way.
Yeah. I feel like I never thought I would be able to have a job. At a certain point, it feels like so debilitating that you don't picture yourself like having relationships and like friendships and having a job, like an real adult job, even going to college. But I did do all those things. And it's not easy. Everyone wants like a good answer on like how to overcome selective mutism and how did you do it. And I don't really have a good answer. It's just like I put myself in really uncomfortable situations that I didn't want to be in, and I worked through them, and it didn't look pretty. It was messy, and I made a lot of mistakes. But yeah, I think therapy is super important. But you have to make sure you find a good therapist, because not that they're not good therapists, but certain therapists don't have the understanding of selective mutism, and I think that's so important to have. But I'm not really answering your question.
No, I found the same thing with social anxiety as well. But yeah, you've got your podcast.
Yep. So I started a podcast. It's been about a year, And it's been amazing. I just love hearing people who reach out. That's like the whole reason we do it. It's just exciting to have like a place where people feel less alone and they can listen to us and maybe learn from our experiences. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. You're speaking about something that isn't spoken about,
Mhm.
and giving that voice to people who just, they can't necessarily express what they want to from where they are.
Yeah, so it's great to have like a free resource for people to learn more about it, and share with their teachers and whoever else needs to be educated. It's been really fun, and we get really awesome people reaching out.
What are the other kind of myths about selective mutism that you want to take this opportunity to just bust?
There's a lot of myths, yeah. The whole shyness myth is, I know it doesn't bother some people who have selective mutism, but I always hated the word shy because I felt like I'm not shy. And I didn't really feel introverted, even though I look like the most introverted person, like at school or in situations where I'm not comfortable. But I felt like that wasn't a good explanation of what was going on. And it felt like they're just like, oh, whatever, she's just shy. But it felt like, no, there's something bad happening to me that we're not acknowledging. And I think it's kind of an excuse to like push it aside without addressing what's really going on.
Yeah, and from a child's perspective, just being called shy, even a child knows that that's not a good thing. And I think it just feeds into that cycle of that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then you kind of want to hide yourself away even more.
Yeah, it doesn't help. For sure. There's other myths like it's not autism, although you can have both. It's not a big one for me. I like to talk about how it's not just with children, even though I'm not sure if it's still in the DSM as a childhood disorder, but on a lot of websites it says it's a childhood disorder, which yes, we do see it more in children, but if you don't get treatment, you grow up. I don't know. There's teens and there's adults with selective mutism, and it's still important to acknowledge that, and they still need help. And I think part of that's access to treatment, and it's not where it should be, and there's not a ton of experts in every location in the world, so people are not getting diagnosed and they're not getting the help that they need. So hopefully that gets better eventually.
Yeah, I think it's another one of those things where it's not spoken about enough, so people just don't know. And I asked my partner if he knew about selective mutism, and he's been a nurse for many, many, many years. And he was like, I've never heard of it. And, he said we only had like a month of kind of psychiatric exploration in his nurse training, and that was all they're sent off with. So
yeah, I know. I was a psychology undergrad student, and it actually did come up, but I think it was just like I don't know, like one little paragraph like in a textbook. I was like, oh my god, it's in the textbook, but like you just touch on it. Yeah, it's not like you get trained, and you have to seek it out and learn for yourself,
which is really tough because so my short kind of interactions with the mental health service was, I mean, firstly, when I was 19, I actually overdosed because I got to the stage where I was like, I just don't see how I'm going to fit into the world, or I can't talk to people, I can't get a job and stuff. And I definitely can't go to university. How would I do that? So that's the stage that I got to when I was 19, and I ended up in hospital. And the nurse that saw me was asking if I did it for attention. And I just shut down and I couldn't respond at all, couldn't get any words out. And
I don't know how you respond to that.
I know. But then, I was referred on to a counsellor at a later date, and she was kind of guiding me to talk about specific events or traumas in my life that she thought was worthy of a suicide attempt, when actually it was just that I felt I didn't fit in.
Mhm.
And her response was, I then shut down and couldn't talk to her. And she was like, well, if you wanted my help, you would be talking to me. And
That's frustrating.
yeah, it's so frustrating because it's just not the truth, is it?
No, that's awful. I really just want everyone to understand it, but it's so hard to get it out there. And it really it does a lot of damage when people do misunderstand it, especially professionals that you would kind of hope would be able to help you. It hurts the most when they don't get it. I think.
For sure. I mean, you've come so far, and I want to kind of know what has helped you and what you suggest to other people.
Yeah, it's really hard. I feel like I try to tell, that's like the whole reason I started the podcast. I wanted to tell my story and what helped for me, even though it's different for everyone. I think I was really lucky to get an early diagnosis at 5 years old, but that's not to say you can't make progress if you're older. You can be an adult and do amazing things and reach your goals. It's just harder to find treatment, but I don't know. I think for me, I went on medication at an early age. Now that is something people aren't comfortable with sometimes, but it was definitely like a big change for me. Not that I took a magic pill and it started making me talk. That's not what happened. I wanted to talk and I was in constant fear in a lot of situations, and that just kind of lowered it down where I could function better and do what I wanted to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it changed my personality. It made me more myself. And there's no shame in taking that medication for anxiety or whatever mental health disorder you're dealing with. So that was definitely a big help. I was also lucky to have a therapist who knew about selective mutism and had treated other kids with it, which I know is hard to find for some people, unfortunately. But that is super important because I hear stories of families not getting very far in therapy because they're like, oh, my kid won't even talk to the therapist. Like, how do we do anything? Like, how do you make any progress when they won't even talk to them? But people who are trained in selective mutism know how to work up to that.
And I think it's okay to like just transfer to a different therapist and try a few before you find the right one for you too. And we don't always give ourselves permission to do that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with referring out either. If you are a therapist, you're like, I don't know what's going on, someone else try. There's no shame in that. There's also, with selective mutism, there's this thing, people call it contamination, but that's kind of a weird word. I guess it does get the point across though. So if you have like an interaction with someone and you are unsuccessful at speaking, it becomes harder to talk to that person again, or they're contaminated, which sounds awful. It's not supposed to be something bad. It's just how that learning history develops with that person. So I'd see, like, if you have a long history of not speaking to a therapist, it might be harder to do so. Someone new might be easier.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense.
That was also a big thing for me. I switched schools in seventh grade, the end of sixth grade, going into seventh grade, and I was able to kind of start fresh. That's not really an option for everyone, but it's hard when like you've been in the same environment your whole school experience and you're with the same peers who have this like perception of you, or at least you think they have a perception of you that might not be accurate. But like having that fresh start just made such a difference for me. I felt like I could kind of reinvent myself and start as myself.
I was convinced that was what I needed too. And when I left school and went to college, I was like, right, it's going to be different now. It's definitely going to be different. And I went in there and like half the girls that I went to school with were sat in the room. So it was exactly the same.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I had the same thing. I had a few people that went to the same school. Like we both switched school at the same time, and I was like, I just want a school where nobody knows me.
And then I think the other thing that you mentioned was about setting specific goals, and taking small comfort zone stretches.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's not an easy thing. It takes hard work, and you have to be uncomfortable. Like that's the hard part. You have to kind of accept that it's not going to be a comforting experience. Like you can stay in your comfort zone and just never talk and never do the things that you want to do, or you can challenge yourself and put yourself in these situations that kind of push you.
Yeah.
But you can do that little steps at a time. It doesn't have to be this big scary thing.
Yeah, and so much of this is applicable to both social anxiety and selective mutism. And it's kind of like, we're kind of protecting ourselves and avoiding stuff and avoiding being seen, because we think like something really bad will happen if we are seen and heard. But when you sort of future pace and you're like, well, if in 5 years time, if I haven't done this, if I haven't stretched myself, like where am I going to be? And what if I do it? Where could I be then? I mean, look at how amazing you are doing.
Thank you. I swear, like the podcast has been like therapeutic, because part of all of this is not wanting to be vulnerable, and I kind of just force myself to share like the scariest parts of my past. Like to me, that was not good. I felt like my childhood was like really hard. And sharing that with other people and being vulnerable and also getting good feedback while doing that is so rewarding. It just shows me that it doesn't have to be scary.
It must have been really scary to start it. Like what pushed you to do it?
I don't really know where it came from. I was like, I love podcasts, so I listen to them all the time. And I was just curious one day. I was like, I wonder if there's any about selective mutism, because I see all these cool new resources now that they didn't exist when I was a kid. So I was like, there's probably a podcast. There's a podcast about everything. But at the time there wasn't. So I was like, maybe I'll do it. I don't know how hard it is to start a podcast, but
you were the first. That's so cool.
Yeah. There were episodes about it, which is nice, but there was no like, this is all we talk about.
Yeah, because there's so much to talk about, so it makes sense to have a podcast. I love the way that you have other guests on, and people with experience with their parents again.
We've had really awesome guests.
How did you feel about doing that public speaking?
Yeah, it's weird because public speaking is like our biggest fears if you have anxiety. And it's weird because I felt like I had overcome selective mutism at a certain point. Like I was speaking to classmates and I could answer questions in class and I could raise my hand and say something if I wanted to. But getting up in front of people and presenting something was like, would just shut me down.
Yeah.
So I was like, I thought I was past all this, but then I was still having panic attacks. And I remember going to school one day and I was supposed to give a presentation that day, and I just immediately threw up the second I got out of the car to go into school. And I used to just like hide in the bathroom and try not to faint because I didn't want to like make a scene and get more attention for fainting.
Yeah.
So I would go hide and try to faint in private. But I don't really know like how I somehow managed to start presenting. It seems like I went through a few really bad presentations, and I used to have teachers that would let me like do it privately, like one-on-one after school, or do it with like a smaller group of peers. So that's definitely helpful, and it can help you like work up to that. But a big thing is like feeling unprepared and not knowing what you're talking about. Like if you're very fluent in what you're presenting, it takes like less brain power to do it. And if you don't really know, if you're not super confident with what you're presenting, it's like you shut down from the anxiety and the extra pressure of having to think all that through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm hearing about taking a comfort zone stretch and doing it bit by bit.
Yeah, step by step.
Yeah. And you have recently, I guess, stretched your comfort zone yet again and written a book.
I did. Yes. I've been wanting to write a book for so long. I actually started writing like a longer like memoir, but I don't know why. It's been really hard to write and like relive these moments that were really hard. And I think this was like a coping mechanism to writing this children's book, because it's kind of like I'm still writing a book, but it's easier, and I don't know. It was easier to write, and it was really fun to do the illustrations. And it's called I Am Brave. You can find it on Amazon. I've been like blown away. I keep getting messages from people like saying their kid loved it, and like pictures of them holding it. It makes me want to cry. I just can't imagine like having a book like that. Like if I was a kid and I found a book that explained what I was experiencing, I would think that would make you feel so much more comfortable and like less alone. I always felt like I was the only one who was experiencing that. So that's what I wanted to do by writing it.
That's so beautiful. I Am Brave.
Thank you.
So that is, you know,
Yes.
helping young kids, I guess, who are
Mhm.
experiencing selective mutism.
Yeah. It's very short. It's probably for like kindergarten. I don't know what they say in the UK. Like 4 to 5-year-olds, maybe the next school year above that too. I dealt with like a lot of low self-esteem as a kid, and not being able to talk and like do the things I wanted to do made me feel bad about myself. So in my book, I wrote like positive affirmations, like the character reminds herself like all the awesome things about herself whenever she feels like she can't do something. So I just wanted to teach kids that they can stay positive and still love themselves.
That's so cute. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to go and buy a copy for my niece and nephews now.
Yeah.
Oh, so is there a practice that you use? You mentioned that you used to have low self-esteem and confidence. Is there something that you still use to boost that?
Let's see. It's more like I've gone through like CBT, and I found that to be pretty helpful, like just reframing your thoughts and like challenging them, because you have so many thoughts flying through your head when you're anxious, and it's good to just stop and say like, oh, is that actually true, and is that accurate, and is that thought helping me in any way, or can we just kind of move on past it? Because I think you kind of like you can get stuck on certain thoughts, and it can kind of tear away at you. So it's good to just see them as like separate little things going through your head that you don't have to buy into.
Yeah, so then we become like the observer of the thought rather
Yeah.
than the thought itself.
Yeah. I also I really love acceptance commitment therapy, which I am trying to learn more about. It's kind of like a branch off of behavior analysis, which is what my master's degree is in, but we didn't talk a lot about ACT.
Yeah,
They like to
I've
call
heard
it,
so
but
much good stuff about it.
yeah, and I think it would be really helpful for teens and adults who are struggling with like anxiety and selective mutism.
Yeah, for sure. So at this point, how comfortable are you feeling in the world?
I feel pretty good. I'm pretty confident in certain areas. I feel like I definitely still struggle, which is okay, and I think it's important to tell people like you can, like, it's a lifelong journey. Anxiety doesn't kind of disappear, for me at least. It's just always there, and I feel like learning to manage it and not let it hold me back from what I want to do is super important.
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that it's a really normal human emotion. And the more I speak to people, the more I realise that we all feel anxious at times. We're all self-doubting, and the difference between the people that we look at and view as successful and the way that we feel about ourselves is just that the people that we view as successful have pushed through and done the thing that they're scared of anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas I was always kind of like, I'll just wait until I feel confident, and then that day never ever came.
Yes. And there's something about perfectionism too, because you want it to be perfect, and if you just do it, it doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of realize, like, oh, why was I holding back? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Brene Brown talks about perfectionism being like the 20-ton shield or something.
Yes. I love Brene Brown.
Yeah. It's just another piece of armor. It's not really, it's not a part of our personality. It's just a coping strategy that we've learned to kind of hide ourselves away and avoid criticism, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you were to look back and give your younger self some advice, what would you offer?
Yeah. I would tell myself that I am not alone, and there's other people that go through the same thing, and it's totally normal. And you can get through it. If it really feels like you can't, and it feels like it's the most impossible thing to do, but if you work on it little by little, it is possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like that's the biggest thing, almost the very first step in moving through that social anxiety as well, is just realizing you're not alone and being a part of a community of people who really get it and understand and know where you're coming from.
Yeah, for sure.
So where can we find you, Chelsea?
Yeah. You can find the book and everything and all the podcast episodes on our website. It's outloudsm.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. We have the Facebook group, which is really cool. And feel free to ask any questions or reach out. I love to hear from people. That's my favorite part of doing all this.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. I absolutely suggest people go and listen to your podcast as well. And we'll pop all the links on the show notes for this episode for you.
Awesome.
Right. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us, Chelsea. This has been really, really useful.
Thank you for having me. It was really good.
Thanks for listening. You can find the show notes from this episode at quietconnections.co.uk. If you found this episode helpful, then please tell a friend about it or share on social media.
With gratitude for the support of the National Lottery Community Fund.